Kansas City audience and KUAW listeners. This is Professor Smooth Jazz on KUAW with the Smooth Jazz Show every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. But today we have the special guest, Ashley Keiko, who is a saxophonist, composer, singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur who has studied classical piano. Ashley, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Glad we could do this interview together. I was kind of worried. I said, "Oh man, I got to hurry up, trying to keep my schedule together." But
Right.
would you say hello to the KUAW and Kansas City audience?
Yes, yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Wow, it's a pleasure all mine. Being March, we all know it's Women's History Month. So this
Yeah.
is, oh man, this is great. Now, Ashley, you had some performances that include the Apollo Theater in New York. So tell us about, and also in Australia too. So tell us about your Apollo Theater experience.
Yes. Oh, it was such a great experience to perform on that stage, just knowing how many amazing artists have graced that stage. I was just so excited to be there. I was actually performing with a friend of mine, and we were doing amateur night at the Apollo. So, that was just a great experience, and hopefully I can go back and be the featured performer next time.
Oh, okay. And so also in Australia, so you've been doing a little traveling, huh?
Yes, yes, I have. So I actually went to Australia with a group of people. We were doing kind of like a community service type of mission there in Australia. And I got the opportunity to bring my saxophone and perform for a group of students. So that was also really exciting, just to be able to perform in a different country and see how people react to jazz and the type of music that I listen to.
Yeah, I know that I know an artist that I usually spin on my shows, but they also have, I don't know how many smooth jazz radio stations they have, but I know they have some because I've seen them on the smooth jazz list of radio stations where you can listen to smooth jazz. So Australia's no stranger to jazz, I hear.
Right.
Okay, and so you also performed on television shows that some might have watch, so that some might watch all
Yeah.
the time. And what
Yeah.
show was that?
I performed on Family Feud for Steve Harvey. That was also a really great experience. I was on the show with my family. We were actually one of the contestants on the show. And I decided to bring my saxophone and tell Steve what I do. And then I whipped out my saxophone and performed for him, which he was very surprised, but also very pleased. So that was a lot of fun.
So was this recently or when you were younger?
It was a few years ago. I would say about 4 years ago,
Hmm.
not too long ago. Hmm.
Oh, okay. And so you performed at colleges also?
Yes, when I was studying abroad, I went to Columbia University, and through Columbia University, I did a study abroad program where I also got to go to China and
Hmm.
perform there as well at Xiamen University.
Hmm.
So that was fun, and I've performed at both Columbia University and the New School University. So I've done a lot of different performances at schools.
So how long have you been? So did you start piano first and then go to sax or?
So piano was actually my first instrument.
Hmm.
I started when I was about 7 years old.
Hmm.
And then about 5 years later, I picked up the saxophone in middle school. I really wanted to be in the band that they had, but
Hmm.
piano wasn't a band instrument. So I had to choose either a horn instrument or a percussion instrument. And so
Hmm.
I was really inspired by my dad to do the saxophone because he did saxophone when he was younger. And we also happened to have one at home. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
perfect.
Oh, okay. So did your dad play sax for, did perform or?
No, he was a beginner, and he's actually currently taking saxophone lessons now.
Okay. Uh-huh.
But he wasn't, a professional
Hmm.
saxophonist. He just did it, in school when he was younger. So he's now picking it up again and trying to get better at it.
So how did you kind of pick the genre that you're, because it's you what R&B, hip hop, pop, and gospel.
Yes. So I am just really inspired by all types of genres. So it's very hard to just pick one. And
Mhm.
I don't feel like it would be representative of who I am if I only stick to one genre. So I like to incorporate all of those different styles of music into my music. And it's also what I listen to on a daily basis. I always mix it up and listen to hip hop, R&B, pop, smooth jazz, gospel, just everything. So I just really wanted to incorporate all of those styles into my playing.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes on my show I have callers and well, what's smooth jazz? And I tell them that it's music influence all different genres,
Yeah.
and and I was telling them about well, we have a lot of younger people, and it's when I was growing up. Well, there was R&B, and then I went through the '80s. There was where hip hop first started.
Yes.
Sugar Hill Gang, one of the
Hmm.
first ones.
First thing I thought
And
about
so
it.
disco, I mean, all that music because I'll be 67 next month.
Oh wow,
So I
look
mean,
it.
it started in '50s, and they do wop and all kind. So I was telling them that all those you can hear all those influences in a lot
Yeah.
of the music, and jazz they have so many classifications. So contemporary smooth jazz that kind of covers all of it. Because one guy calls fusion, and I tell him I said it's some of the younger people, they weren't around when fusion or they were younger, but
Mhm.
they have some soul jazz now, that they have. So jazz is universal and all of the influences. Well, with young people, some of those influences you can hear it in their music, and I'm so glad that we have young people
Mhm.
interested in playing jazz because that's the only way you're gonna keep it going.
I agree.
If you, yeah, and so just like when I was working, I'm kind of semi-retired. Well, I retired from work, and I'm semi-retired,
Okay.
so I always need somebody to fill in those shoes.
Yes.
And so you have a new CD release,
Yeah.
Pursuit of Harmony. So tell me about that. I know I played what Burn Up. That's the first one I played. Yes,
Mhm.
so, and I played Pretty Young Thing,
Mhm.
and I played that for that was kind of like some of the selections I used for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Had to have
nice.
my little Valentine's playlist, so I was like, oh, here we go, right here. so, and I know you got a new release too coming out. I
Yes,
don't know if you want to go ahead and announce that, but you got a new release coming. And so tell me
definitely.
about this new CD.
So yes, Pursuit of Harmony, my debut album. I'm just so excited that it's finally here. A lot of people have been asking for it over the years, and I'm just so glad that I was finally able to release it. It is a culmination of a lot of different genres, like we talked about.
Mhm.
It has a little bit of vocals on it as well. So that's something new that a lot of people didn't really expect from me. And it also incorporates covers and originals. So there's something on there for everyone. And I really, wanted to name it Pursuit of Harmony because I was in a pursuit of balance in my life,
Mhm.
one being a musician and
Mhm.
the other being an entrepreneur, which we haven't talked about yet, but we'll talk about soon.
Uh-huh.
I am a
Yes.
business owner. And also musically, I was in a pursuit of balance between all of the different
Mhm.
genres that we've
Mhm.
mentioned. balance between traditional genres like classical and jazz versus more contemporary genres like R&B, hip hop. And so I wanted to fuse that and create a harmony between those two opposing things by, doing all of the songs that I've done so far. And so coming up soon, I have a new release, which is also featured on the album. It's called I Have Nothing, and it's a cover of the Whitney Houston song. So I'm really excited for that to be played on the radio stations as well.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, since you mentioned vocals and singing, so when did that come about?
I love vocal music. I'm sure everyone does, and it's
Yes.
one of the most popular forms or art forms, I guess you can say. And so I started experimenting a little bit when I was in college, just trying to use my voice a little bit more and experiment with different sounds, combining sax with vocals. And I started, hearing things like, oh, your voice actually sounds good. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I started taking vocal lessons, and I just started getting a little bit more comfortable with it to then add it onto the album.
So you didn't sing when you were younger?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, you just talented. You had all these talents and you didn't.
Thank you.
Okay, and so you also talked about your experiences. You performed in China, but what about this musical that's reflected in ways in which cultural language and the arts intersect in a transcultural world?
Yes, when I went to China, I really got an opportunity to see how music is such a universal language, and how we can use music to communicate in this transcultural world. And I had a lot of experiences with people who were not fluent in English, and the way that we were able to really bond and communicate was through music. So, it was just a great experience just to kind of immerse in how music can really, influence all of us in similar ways, even though we have such different cultural backgrounds.
Some of your educational accolades. You have a bachelor's degree in jazz performance at the School of Jazz and Contemporary Music at the New School.
Yes, so I went to the New School. Back then it was called the New School. Well, actually now it's called the New School for Jazz. And I studied saxophone performance while I was there for 4 years. And I got, a great opportunity to study with a lot of amazing jazz saxophonists. And that I feel like really helped to push me further with my playing.
And we also talked about your birthplace in New York. You said Queens, right? Queens?
Yes.
And so now that's more popular because the movies, and they got number 2 coming up.
Yes.
Coming to America. So I'm pretty sure when you say Queens, everybody knows, even if they haven't been there, a place in New York, they're gonna know. I know about Brooklyn and I know Queens.
Yes, and I'm so glad.
Been there before.
Yes, I feel like so many great jazz musicians have actually come out of Queens. I don't know, if everyone's familiar, but a lot of jazz musicians came out of St. Albans, Queens specifically. And so I'm just, really happy to be able to represent Queens. And not only that, but when people think of New York, everyone thinks of Manhattan as being the center of everything, especially music. But a lot of people are coming out of other areas like Brooklyn and also Queens. So I'm just happy to represent Queens.
Well, you're doing a really good job. And so let's talk about you got to have a studio started in 2018.
Yes, so my music school, it's actually called Keiko Studios Music Academy, and it's here in Queens, New York. And we service students of all ages. We teach piano, guitar, drums, saxophone, every instrument that you can think of, we teach it here. And we also provide rental space for those who want to either rehearse or have an event here, like a birthday party or a bridal shower. So we have space for that as well.
So you have other instructors
Yes, yes.
for
I
the
do, I do not teach all of those instruments.
yeah, I figured it because we
So
just talked about piano and sax, and I was like, hold on here, did I miss something here?
so yes, I have a large team of instructors that specialize in each instrument, and so they teach all of the lessons, and they're able to give all the students one-on-one individual attention.
Well, I've been attempting to give you some exposure, and so have you had any offers, featured on any other jazz musicians and things like
Not
that?
yet, but I'm definitely, looking forward to doing some collaborations with other artists. I think that's, a huge goal of mine.
Well, I put in a good word from you with Gail Johnson, with Jazz
Okay,
in Pink. Yeah, that's
nice.
all female. So
Okay,
do you
great.
still have did I send you her information? Because I interviewed her and she told me, she said, send that info to her again. And I
Okay.
think Kimberly has talked to her. Now I know Kimberly, she knew Jasmine Gent.
Yes, and I'm familiar with her as well. I
Yes.
seen her on Instagram, and
Mhm.
also through Instagram, I've had a few encounters with a few, celebrities. DL Hughley, the comedian,
Mhm.
actually shared
Okay.
one of my videos recently, as well as Cardi B.
Oh,
She
okay.
shared my video this past weekend. I did a cover of one of her songs, and she shared it on Twitter. So
Oh, that's good.
so yes, hopefully I'll be hearing from more people soon with
Yeah.
collaborations.
And Sinbad, who we lost, but he played bass, and he
Mm.
was. I remember him on Brian Culberson, one of Brian Culberson's CD. And it started out, and he was talking about, oh, can I play my bass? Can I play my bass? Or something like that. And he played a little. So I had went to a Brian Culberson venue here in Kansas City. So it's about 11, somewhere, somewhere around that time. So I
Mhm.
stopped at Gates Barbecue because it's still open because I was hungry. And so I walk in the gates and I look up, and here's Sinbad with his entourage because he had been performing here. Uh,
Oh, nice.
I can't remember. I think it was at one of the casinos or something. So I turned around and I said, "Hey, Brian." I tell Sinbad. I said, "Hey, Sinbad, guess who I just went to a venue to see perform?" And I said, "Brian Culberson." He said, "What? Brian Culberson was here? He didn't tell me that." He said, "Hold on, man. I'm gonna text him right now." So it was kind of funny. And one of the guys that was with him, he said, "My sax player. I'm trying to remember Jay. Oh, how did I forget his name? I usually spin his music.
Mm,
Oh, I forgot his name. I'm gonna have to look it up and email it to you." But
okay.
I told him, I said, "Oh yeah, I know who you are because I played your music before." But yeah,
Mhm.
so Sinbad, I think he played more than one instrument though. I know he
I
played
think
bass.
so.
Yeah, yeah, but it
Yeah.
was kind of funny to see it at Gates
Mhm.
Barbecue with his. Oh yeah.
That's funny.
So is it so? Anything else you like to talk? You got a new promoter,
Yeah, I
or
am
you
working with.
promote one of yours?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'm working with Jason Gurov, and
Uh-huh.
he has been helping with promoting my new release, I Have Nothing.
Mhm,
So hopefully we'll be hearing it on more radio stations, which will be
mhm.
great. And other than that, I'm just happy to be able to be doing some, covers online recently. I've been fortunate enough to gain quite a following online. So people can follow me at Ashley Keiko. Keiko is spelled Keiko.
Mhm.
And you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I'm all over online. So, and then you can also find my music on all of the streaming platforms as well. And you can also find it on my website at ashleykeiko.com.
You pronounce that Keiko, right?
Well, so it is a Japanese name, which is traditionally pronounced Keiko, but my family has always pronounced it as Keiko. So that's kind of just my name now, Keiko, that pronunciation of it.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
not that I know any Japanese, but I met Keiko Matsui,
Oh,
Japanese producer and pianist.
yes,
And so that's how I remember how to pronounce it. And
right.
that's another thing that caught when I saw your name, I
Mhm.
said, Keiko, it's like Keiko Matsui. And so I looked to see, and I said, look to see, how you, I guess when you see a name and then you look to see is there any resemblance to, because
Right,
I knew it was
right.
a Japanese name. So how'd you get that last name?
So that's actually my middle name, and
Oh, okay.
my parents do martial arts. They actually own a martial arts studio in Queens as well, and it's
Oh, okay.
called Zen Masters.
Oh, so now you're not only a musician. Oh,
Yes, yes. I did martial arts for many years growing up in my parents' martial arts studio, and that's really what inspired opening my music school as well. I just was so inspired by my parents being business owners and seeing how they navigated the entrepreneurial experience. So that really inspired me opening Keiko Studios.
So I know it takes a lot of discipline and practice. So
Yeah.
did that help you your music career?
Definitely, yes, yes. It really taught me how to focus, how to have, discipline and definitely stick with what I was doing because, when you're young and you're starting out, it can be difficult. You're learning a whole new language. And so my mother, she was really great with making sure that we practiced all the time, myself and my siblings, and making sure that we were not just, sitting at the piano practicing, but actually reading the music and doing what we had to do. So I can, credit her for that and both of my parents for just making sure that I stuck with what I was doing.
Now, how does I know I was reading an article, and the article stated that jazz, mostly saxophone, male dominated.
Hmm.
So how do you think it's changing any? I see it is
Yes, I
because
agree.
there are more instrumental
Hmm.
women who are happen to be jazz artists
Yes.
that also can sing but
Hmm.
play instruments. And I'm
Yes.
seeing it more being promoted,
Hmm.
playing on the radio shows and stations,
Hmm.
and in the venues. People are starting to open up
Right.
where most of the venues would feature male, but have maybe the women opening up. But now it's a lot different. And I know
Mm.
COVID came along, and that had to put a
Yes,
dent in
unfortunately.
performances. But it also opened up that I need to do more, learn viral and Zoom and
Hmm.
start the computer, using the
Exactly. Yeah.
computer more and
Yes, I think
for
everyone.
other just to check my emails and things like that.
Hmm.
So music is being transferred. Everything it's hard to DJ
Hmm.
not having a computer.
Right. Exactly.
Because if I
So.
don't have a computer, it's hard to do my shows.
There's
Because
no other
most of your
way.
yeah, it's just it'd be difficult. I
Yes,
play
definitely
on
change.
my 90.1. I play 26 to 25 selections in 2 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, that computer it really helps to
Right. I can
for me to
imagine.
program my shows. And even with the KUAW, I'm not there, so I program it. The
Mm.
KOJHs, I program that from at
Oh,
home.
that's great. But I'm sure that helps a lot.
Oh yeah, so there was things, and at the Learning Center where the KUAW, Mr. Walker, he's over the Black Family Technology. He
Hmm,
also over the robotics for the young kids at our school.
that's great.
So we tutor in math, science, and reading, and they also do STEM
Okay,
and
nice.
we also had music lessons. There was a guy that
Oh,
was coming
great.
in, and so sometimes I'll walk by there, to hear the kids play. Because
Nice.
now I
That's
can't play or sing and do, but if there's some music going on, I'm gonna walk around and see what's going
same
on.
here. Same
So I
here.
peek in on them and see. So so the radio station is also another outlet of the learning centers, WB Du Bois Learning Center. You can look at it on bring it up on their
Okay,
website.
well,
And actually, one of my students, she was a second grader, Kennedy, and she started a show on the radio station. Had a little public affairs show at
nice. That's
second grade.
great.
Yeah. So Mr. Walker, he's real good with young kids, and
That's good
so
to hear. I
and
hope
he's also teaching me a lot. That's why I learned a lot of things
great.
from Mr. Walker, how to program my show and do things. So he's still working with me.
That's good.
So,
I always like to hear about, young kids
oh
learning
yeah,
and those that are teaching them. It's great.
yeah. So, thank you. So glad that you could hook up and we could do this interview because I was
Thank
looking
you for having
forward to it and meeting you after hearing your selections. And I know I saw you on the from the image on your CD and
Yes.
things like that. And congratulations and only the best. So, I, I'm thinking I'm gonna contact Gail again. Make sure you guys get
Okay,
hooked up.
yes, please.
So, because oh man, she said she's had 50 women who happen to be jazz artists that
Mm.
have went to venues and that featured on our CDs and stuff. And then, Kim Scott,
Uh,
she's the floss. Now she has a radio station too, and Gail's got one.
oh, okay.
So yeah, so we'll have to hook you up with Kim. I told Kim about you, but I didn't send the information. But she's got a radio station also in
Okay.
Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
No, Alabama. Yeah, Alabama.
Okay.
And Gail's in California.
Okay,
So we're
great.
gonna have to hook you guys up. So
Definitely.
you have a nice day,
You too.
Kansas
Thanks
City
again for
listeners.
having
This is Ashley Keiko, who was pronounced Keiko.
me. Yes.
So I'll have to remember that Keiko, because I always try to correct myself. And I'm
Right, I
pronouncing
know.
Keiko's name. I said, "Ooh, that's wrong. That's wrong." So you say goodbye. You can say goodbye to the. You already gave your information where you can be
Yes,
reached. Would you give that again, please, before we go?
definitely. So you can find me on social media at Ashley Keiko, Keiko, and you can find my website at ashleykeiko.com. And you can also email if anyone has any requests for bookings or anything like that. You can email at booking@keikostudios.com. And then
Thank you again.
also, sorry,
Oh,
one last thing, you can find the album on all streaming platforms. So that's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, everywhere.
okay. Thank you. And you have a nice day.
You too. Thanks again for having me.
You're welcome.